Hello, friends. I'm Eric Hutchinson. I'm a grateful follower of Christ, and I struggle with the painful hurt of divorce, food issues, pride, and all kinds of hurts, habits, and hang-ups. Happy New Year. We are in the first week of January. I hope your holiday season was good, but I know that sometimes the holiday season can have its own set of challenges. But we are in the new year, and many times people make New Year's resolutions. So I want to ask you a couple questions. First, why do we make New Year's resolutions? Why do we do that? I think it's because we want change in our life. I want change in my life. I want to lose weight. I want to get more exercise. I want to spend more time in the Bible. I have things that I want to change in my life. So I make these New Year's resolutions because it's the beginning of a new year, and I think, well, maybe this time I can make it happen. Which brings me to my second question is, why do New Year's resolutions not work? Why do they not work? I don't know about you, but I have made a lot of New Year's resolutions in my life. I have almost every year up until I joined Celebrate Recovery, I would make a New Year's resolution that I was going to stay out of my addiction. Guess what? It never worked. I would make a New Year's resolution that I was going to exercise more, and I would start off and then I would quit halfway through the year. Or I would make a New Year's resolution to eat differently, and then I would stop. Why is that? Why don't they work? Well, a couple things. One, I think that we try to make them work out of our own strength. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And we try really hard to make change in our lives. But as Principle 1 says in Celebrate Recovery, I need to realize that I am not God, and that I admit that I'm powerless to control my tendency to do the wrong thing, and that my life is unmanageable. I've got to realize that I cannot do this on my own, and I need a higher power. I believe change is possible and can happen, but it's a process. Very few times does God just miraculously change us overnight. He could do that, but he doesn't do that very often because we don't learn anything, because there's no process if he just miraculously changed us. And so there's a process, and we learn a lot of valuable things in this process. So I believe that change can happen and is possible. Freedom is possible if I can admit that I can't do it on my own, and that I need help, and I need accountability, and I need to be willing to go through the process of change. So I'm not going to go through this whole process of change because it's quite lengthy, but there's a couple things that I think you might want to focus on as you are going through this process. So number one, commit to the process. Join a step study or get involved into a recovery program and allow that process to create change in your life and allow God to teach you some new things. But as you're going through that process, let me encourage you to make a couple New Year's resolutions that I think can last forever. The first one is out of Matthew 22:37 through 40. And this Pharisee asked Jesus, hey, what's the greatest commandment? He was trying to trick Jesus, but Jesus came back with a very profound statement. He said, the greatest commandment is to love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, and all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. And the second is like it. Love your neighbor as yourself. Now, first of all, to love God, that's one of our principles. How do you love something? How do you love a person? Well, how do you love God? Well, in order to love God, you've got to spend time with God, and you have to speak with God and communicate. Principle 7 says, reserve a daily time with God for self-examination, Bible reading, and prayer in order to know God, His will for my life, and to gain the power to follow His will. I have to spend time with God to know God. But as I do that, change starts to happen because I am close to Him. He is righteous, and He causes change to happen in my life. Before I came to Celebrate Recovery, I was a Christian for most of my life, I wasn't spending time with God. And it was amazing what that principle did in my life. The second thing is to love your neighbor as yourself. And it's really interesting because the Hebrew word for neighbor basically means people. It means everyone. I'm supposed to love everyone as I love myself and treat them as I would treat myself. Do unto others as I would have them do unto me, the golden rule. So we have a principle for that in Celebrate Recovery. Principle 6, evaluate all my relationships. Offer forgiveness to those who have hurt me and make amends for the harm I've done to others, except when to do so would harm them or others. So love God, love people. And then the third thing that I want to encourage you as you work this recovery process is out of 1 Corinthians 10:31. It says, whether you eat or drink or whatever you do, do all to the glory of God. So I want you to ask yourself a question. Is what I'm doing, is it glorifying God? If it's not, maybe I need to consider changing that area in my life. Is what I'm eating, does that glorify God? Does that glorify His temple, my body? Or does it not? Is it harmful to me? Is the way I'm speaking, is the way I'm communicating, is that glorifying God? Is the things that I'm watching, are those things glorifying God? If not, I need to consider change and allow this process to take place in my life. So love God, love people, and glorify God in all we do. Ask myself the tough questions. Is what I'm doing, is the way I'm speaking, is what I'm watching glorifying God? Our Serenity Prayer says it best. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. Forget the past. I can't change that. And allow me to make real change in my life as I yield to you. So I want to encourage you, friend, today to yield to this process of change through recovery and glorify God in all that you do. May God bless you, and may God keep you and your family safe.